Welcome everyone, this is Howlack again, and from our last video tutorial we created a custom class called Gradebook. Okay, so I have it right here. What we did was that we actually created the blueprint to create a new Gradebook object. We never actually created the object itself, like an actual concrete object. And in this tutorial, we're going to actually use it to instantiate or create new object. All right. So again, there's a number of things here that you may not understand, and we'll cover it in later tutorials. One of them being the package, and you can think of this as kind of a namespace to avoid collision. So you notice that here it's com.lack, my last name .how, or in my first name. In a company setting, this would be the URL of the company in reverse. Okay, so this ensures that there's uniqueness in the namespace. Okay, now also for the time being, ignore these keywords public and private. We will get to them soon. Okay, so what I did here was I actually filled in some of for example here, that you recall that this is an attribute of the class, all right, of the class Gradebook. And in OO terminology, this is an instance variable. Okay, this is an instance variable. So it is an attribute of the class. So you create a Gradebook object. It has an attribute called course name. Okay, but we call it an instance variable here. Okay, and we have, of course, our constructor here. So this will create the new object, and we will initialize this new object with a string type, right? And its name, the parameter name is called name. The name itself doesn't really matter. You can call it anything, but name just makes sense. Okay, and we assign it to course name. So when we actually create the object, it instantiates it with the course name, and we'll see that later when we actually create the object. And we have these setters and getter methods, and they're basically, in old terminology, these are accessors. Okay, and we have, of course, our last method to display the message. All right. Okay. So now, what I'm going to do is we can't. The idea here is that we need to create another class to actually create this object. Okay, so I'm going to go to my package here, right? So in my source folder, and in Eclipse you do the same thing. You go to your package, right click, and you create a new class. Okay, not anything else, not a file, but a Java class. Okay, so here I'm going to give it a name. Okay, so I'm going to just call it Gradebook lib, or library, short for library. Okay, all right, so there it is. Okay, and here we're going to do something that's familiar to you in the past, right? But notice that before we continue, there's two classes now in this package here, right? In the past, we really only dealt with one, okay? And in this class, you're going to see the familiar public static void main. Okay, so this is going to be where I'm going to instantiate the Gradebook objects. Okay, so here we are. So this is more familiar now. Okay, so let's start. And so you recall when you create the scanner object, you call it by name, like scanner, and then give it an identifier. So here we're going to do the same thing, called book, and I'm going to call it Gradebook number 1. Okay. And like the scanner example, you use the new keyword. Right, and then just remember we said scanner, right? But here we're going to call it Gradebook, okay? Because we want to instantiate an object for a Gradebook object. All right, and notice here it actually highlights to say that, well, I need a string type, right, for a name. So I'm just going to call it a CS, right? 101. Let's not call it CS. Let's just say yeah, why not? CS 101. CS just stands for computer science, Java programming. How's that? Let's capitalize that. Oops, I can't type today. All right, and Done. Now we're going to create a second gradebook. Okay. Gradebook number 2. How about that? Alright, and the same thing. So now we actually have 2 objects that we allocated memory for. Okay, we instantiated 2 objects. CS 201 C programming. Alright, I don't know how it's going to look when we display it, but I'm just going to call it that. Okay, so now we have two separate objects. So memory for 2 of these objects, and now we're just going to invoke one of their methods, right? So let's just say I'm going to invoke, all right. So this is grade book 1, all right. I'm just gonna keep it nice and short. I'm not using the formatting, the formatted print. Just using the ln there, all right. And we're going to call it, right? So gradebook 1, and then look, when I press the dot operator, okay, this is to invoke the method that we have. And you recall, in gradebook, I actually have we created a method, all right, called getCourseName, all right. So we can do that, and I can do the same thing for sorry, I can actually do the same thing for gradebook 2. Right, I'm just being lazy here. All right, so 2, right? That's fine, right? Because each of them have the same type of method, right? So the same method. Remember, gradebook is a blueprint, so we're just creating objects, okay, off of that blueprint, and each of these objects has a method called getCourseName. Of course, it has the other methods as well, but we haven't really called it yet. All right. So now we can try running it. All right. So let me try running it. Okay. So here we have gradebook 1 and CS, right? So it actually produced that output, right? Now we can actually call the other methods as well. Okay. Like for example, the set method, right? So let's just say that we want to rename the gradebook, right? Say gradebook 1. Okay. So we want to rename it. Right, we can do this. We can set. Right, notice that it pops back up. Right, and we can say, well, you know what? Let's move from programming to calculus. All right, how about math 101 calculus. All right, so we can do that, and let's do the same thing for gradebook 2. All right, set course name, and this time. One of my favorite topic, I guess, I'm going to say probability. All right. So there's probability, right? So we renamed it, okay? And if we actually copy this, right? So now we're going to do this, all right? So you see the difference in the printout. Okay, so I'm going to run it again. All right, so you see that it's been changed. It's the same object, right? All we're doing is resetting the name. We're not creating a new object because up here we created those objects. All we're doing here, so here we created the original object and initialized it with these course name, right? And we print it out and we showed it here, okay? And in these 2 lines, we actually reset its course name, all right? So please note that even though the code in here looks very similar in the constructor, we go back to our gradebook class. All right, see the course name, right? They are actually very different because here the object already exists. These 2 objects. All we're doing is resetting an attribute. Okay, and we print out and we see that. Okay. The only other thing that we didn't use was actually gradebook dot display. Right, we did something like that. I don't even know how it looks like. So, but let's try it. Actually. Okay, save and run. Okay, so it says welcome to the gradebook for Math 101 Calculus and Math 201 Probability. Okay, so this is in summary, we created 2 classes, right, in in a single package, and one of the class is actually the blueprint to create gradebook object types, okay, and it has instance variable, it has the constructor to actually do to allow the actual instantiation of the object, Okay, so instantiation again is creating an object, allocating space or memory. You can think of it that way. And here we actually initialize it. Okay, so the constructor serves two purposes. Okay, and it has some methods here. Okay, that it could call. And in our other class, which contains the familiar main method, we actually instantiate the two objects and then just invoke some of its methods. Okay, so that's a very gentle introduction to Java OO, and we will continue with more OO concepts in future tutorial sessions. Thanks for listening. Take care.